What's going on, everybody? It's your boy JT, and we are back to the Crypto Den. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Today, we have an exciting topic. It's one of the topics that honestly invigorates me. It lights my soul on fire because my anti-authoritarian, libertarian values. This is one of the things. The second I understood money, really understood money, I started living my life differently. And um, I hope that it's as profound to you as it is to me. And I hope I can do a great job of explaining it because honestly, this knowledge is difficult to find online. So before I get into it, yeah, I want to remind you guys my name is Jake Tullis. I also go by JT, and I run a digital asset hedge fund called Bleeding Edge Capital. We are a discretionarily long research-based hedge fund, and we're based out of Cincinnati. And what we do is primarily research the fundamental of protocols. This channel is where I publish the research, the findings, thoughts, opinions, and that's just to get my hedge fund out into the world, and hopefully something valuable comes from it for you guys as well. So with that, we're going to go get into what is a fiat currency. And a lot of channels talk about it. A lot of people talk about, how it's a scam, whatever. I'm not going to come at you like that. I'm going to simply explain to you the history of the US dollar. So, first and foremost, it's important to know that there was a period of time where the world powers weren't necessarily established. Like, it wasn't until World War II where America really established themselves as the world leader, essentially. We came in, we saved the day with the nukes. We had most of the gold that was circulating in the world at the time. Part of the peace accords and the Treaty of Versailles after World War II was the global reserve currency will be US dollar because we have the most gold, in theory. This is back in 1945, 46, whenever this was decided. Fast forward to Richard Nixon. So now it's 1970s and a lot of problems are happening. So gold is really difficult and expensive to get out of the ground. From 45 to 71, or maybe 73. We'll have to figure that out. You can Google that. Um, there was so many people in the world, their needs for all the governments and everything else had exceeded the ability or the cost efficiency of getting gold out of the ground to issue new dollars, because from 45 to 70s you could not issue new dollars without having an equal amount of gold. So $1 was whatever 0.001 ounces of gold, let's say. I don't know the conversion off the top of my head. You could not issue more dollars unless you had that additional 0.001 gold, essentially. And there were a lot of issues. Basically, the world had gotten too productive and the money supply was getting too tight. So it was causing a lot of economic issues because the economy couldn't expand because dollars weren't circulating enough. And since we were the global reserve currency, everyone needed dollars. It wasn't just America, it's all the different countries because global reserve currency means all of the loans between governments, all the trades between governments, countries are denominated in US dollars. So they all need US dollar to keep their balances, their ledgers fully permanent and working, right? If you need to buy oil in dollars, as an example. And that actually was a big deal, by the way. We can get into that in a second. But shortly after Nixon takes us off the gold standard, we started the practice of fiat currency. It's been around since around the 13th century in China. It was the first real attempt at it. And what fiat currencies are just means that there's no real world assets, there's no backing of that dollar. So it's just predicated on the full faith and credit of the government. And now every single country has a fiat currency, just in case you guys are wondering. And since, essentially there's nothing backing their currencies. The full faith and credit of that government is the only thing backing the value of that currency. So since America's still global reserve currency, everyone looks to them. This is like the 71 to 78. We have terrible economic market performance, all this other stuff. And then we come up with OPEC. Okay, so after the economy goes into free fall, Nixon decides we need something to, inject basically capital, energy, resources, entropy into our dollar. So OPEC gets stood up, and then basically you, like anyone in the world, if you want oil, you got to do it in dollars for 50 years. Okay. So we've been able to export dollars, just give dollars to everybody in the form of treasury bills. And that has been able to expand economies, right? I mean, our GDP is a monster, right? Like 40 trillion. But back in those days, I mean, that's where we were going. We didn't have enough money to even get there, right? There wasn't enough money in people's pockets to actually pump our GDP up like that. Hey everybody, it's JT. Just in case you didn't know, I would love a sub. Almost 97% of you that have viewed our content have not subscribed, and it would mean the world to me if you just hit that sub button, give us a like, and let us know how we're doing. All right, back to the content. So now you have people needing dollars to buy oil, oil to run ships, to get their wars, their cars moving. Gas is like everything right now. So oil was super, super important to upholding the dollar. And then what you end up having happen is where you have more corruption, you are going to get basically shittier currency because there's nothing backing that currency outside of the full faith and credit of the government. And if the government is super corrupt, they're going to trash the currency. They're going to print it and put it into their hands because you can just make it. If you guys seen a video of how it's made, the US dollar, it'll make you disgusted. It's just paper in a press, and they're printing billions and billions and billions, and then they just put it on a pallet and ship it. And we work our lives away for that stuff. It's crazy. So that's basically what fiat currencies are. That's the history of the US dollar. Okay. Um, it's really important to know that the United States of America and the US dollar is probably one of the smartest and most intelligent weapons that the United States has ever made. Because since everyone needs dollars to trade, and since we can make it for literally no cost, barely any cost, we can have people basically work, trade, and all we have to do is print money. That's it. That's it. And our GDP grows because everyone wants to be here and put the money back into our economy because this is where everyone wants to be. It's genius. And then basically, since we don't export a lot, we use our GDP and the consumerism as a weapon because now everyone is selling stuff to us. We're propping up all of these economies with something we can just make out of thin air, right? And then if they do something bad, right, we don't like them, like Russia, we can just sanction them, which means you can't have dollars. And now their entire economy is in shambles. We could do an embargo, not trade with you. And if 70% of your GDP is selling to America, your people will starve and kill each other inside of 90 days. So it's worse than a nuke, and we can make it out of thin air. And that's why so many different countries are rising up against us because we've been using that and we've been bullying people for 50 years. OPEC's agreement ended in 2024. So it was 74 when OPEC was stood up, 50-year agreement. And we're starting to see a shift in world powers over the global reserve currency. I don't think anyone is going to choose China, Russia, India. If we have a rebalancing of world powers, it is likely that everyone agrees to a agnostic, uncontrollable, general good, which could be Bitcoin, it could be gold, it could be silver. A lot of gold bulls will tell you that they're going to revalue gold and everyone's going to go to a gold standard again, but there's a real problem with that, and it's the hard money that's difficult to deal with. I mean, our population, our GDP, it's all going to keep expanding, and there's just a limited amount of gold. Whereas since Bitcoin's digital and it's relatively inexpensive to make, and there's only going to be 21 million ever, and it's software and it can be deployed anywhere very easily. It's likely Bitcoin is going to be used, but it could be something else. So, but that's the history of fiat currency. That's why I am in crypto because I understand that fiat currencies all die. It's just a matter of how corrupt the government is. Go look at any nation on a fiat currency. That's when their lifespan really starts. We've made it 60 something years. Japan made it 40 years. Latin American countries might have made it 30 years because they're more corrupt. In Africa, not long at all. Look at Zimbabwe. Look at Morocco, Congo. I mean, there are periods of time where a billion of their dollars got you a loaf of bread. That's hyperinflation, and it happens all the time to corrupt governments. So let's just all pray that we can root out corruption, make the dollar stronger, and stay the global reserve currency and back it with Bitcoin. I think that's the best outcome for everybody. All right. Hopefully that was informative. Sorry, it's just me sitting in front of this camera. I don't have much to show you. That is just years of me studying macroeconomics. But it's very important to understand the direction of, global geopolitical and economic conditions to decide which asset classes are really the best for your returns. And this fiat scale that we're going into, I'm a big fan of commodities for it. So, alrighty. Until next time, take care of one another. Peace and love. I'll see you.